Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. My name is Maria Franco, and I am a sophomore at the American School of Milan. I am originally Colombian and moved here in 2013. Upon arriving, I quickly came to admire the passion that Italians have for their rich cuisine. They are proud of it and spend time to find the needed ingredients to perfect each dish. Today, our rapid increase in human population from 1.65 billion in 1900 to 7.6 billion in 2018 has magnified drastically our need for food and nutrients. Such high demand worldwide means that finding food can become difficult, let alone finding the ingredients needed to pass our cultures and taste to the next generation. While areas such as Milan or London or Paris have hundreds of supermarkets stocked with food and with strong distribution networks, in other places such as Yemen, 60% of the population is lacking of food security. Food sustainability is something we urgently need for the possibility of a more efficient future where every child has a meal on their table. Today, I am here to introduce former Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft, co-founder of Intellectual Ventures, and principal author of Modernist Cuisine, Nathan Myhrvold. He advocates for the implementation of scientific technology principles and technology to the kitchen for a more efficient and sustainable method of cooking, which may help maintain ecological balance in our world. After his remarks, we'll hear from an expert panel that will focus more specifically on how modernist cuisine can bring both tradition and sustainability to the most Italian of foods, pizza. Thank you for your time and for inspiring us all.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hope Cohen. I'm here from Philadelphia, very happy to be at Seeds&Chips, and I'd like everyone to help me welcome Nathan Myhrvold to the stage, please.
Okay, so let's see. Great. There we go. So I have a long career in technology, but for the last almost a little more than 10 years, I have been working with this set of folks and others to write the biggest cookbooks on earth. So this is our kitchen, our research kitchen in Seattle, where we have a mixture of tools that could be in a professional chef's kitchen, and also things that would be more fitting for a biology or a chemistry lab. Technology. Can I have the next slide? Would that be a possible thing? There we go. So in 2011, I wrote a book called Modernist Cuisine. Then in 2012, Modernist Cuisine at Home. Then a book just of food photography in 2013. There we go. More recently, I just came out with a book called Modernist Bread. It's really big. My favorite statistic is there's 1.8 kilograms of ink. And when they first told me this, I thought it must be a mistake. How can there be that much ink? But on every photo, there's a thin layer of ink, very thin. But if you have 1,000 of those things, it adds up to quite a block. To make this book, we used 40 tons of flour, 60,000 loaves of bread, and I gained about 10 kilos. This is my grandfather. His name was Adolf Myhrvold. This is him sitting on his new tractor in the 1920s in a grain field. And so I come from a bunch of farmers, and what I'm going to talk about mostly today is about the agriculture system, how that relates to bread. So one of the things that grains are a very basic commodity for us. It takes about 65 kilograms of grain to make 1 kilogram of beef. Of course, not all beef is fed on grain, but it's a rough equivalent. And one of the things that this did is, as a society, we decided to make grain very cheap. So this is a graph of the price of wheat in the United States. It's adjusted for inflation. So this is all in 2016 dollars. And you can see that since 1917, there was a drop in the price of grain by a factor of 10. Now, very few other things in our life have dropped by that kind of a factor. Okay, and in fact, wheat is now cheaper than dirt. So here we have a sack of garden soil, which is about $1.88, a little less than $2 per kilogram. Wheat is about 17 cents per kilogram. Wheat flour, about 50 cents a kilogram. So we literally made wheat cheaper than dirt. Now, obviously, there's dirt that's cheaper than the potting soil, but the focus that as a society we had on making wheat cheap was very successful. So in a way, you could say, well, someone set out with a goal. The goal is to make cheap wheat, and they succeeded in this goal. Unfortunately, that goal comes at a cost. And so the grain market is what I call a horizontal market. There's different layers in the market, and from one layer, it's very hard to penetrate to the rest. So we used to have many, many varieties of wheat. Now there's only a few varieties, and those varieties have been optimized for yield, not for quality. Yet, there are many people in the world who live on less than $2 a day. And those prices, even though wheat is cheap, it's not cheap enough for those people. So we have a paradox that our current system of grain agriculture is not working for rich people, and it's not working for poor people. So you might ask, who's it working for? Because in the developed world, in the United States, Europe, and Japan, and the parts of Asia that are developing, in fact, instead of starvation, it's overeating that is a problem. So this is a graph of obesity rates, and you can see for essentially every continent, they're going up. Even in Africa, obesity rates are going up, even while some people in Africa are starving. So we produce enough food that we ought to be able to feed everyone, yet roughly 800 million people in the world regularly go hungry. Maybe not every meal, but there's many meals that they have to skip. This chart shows the years of healthy life lost due to a lack of nutrition. So this isn't just going hungry. This is going hungry enough that it affects your lifespan. And you can see there's quite a few parts of Africa and a few parts of Asia that are very strongly affected even now. So my company does a lot of work in the developing world on inventions to help agricultural productivity and also health in the third world. And the part of our company that does this is called Global Good, and the man who runs Global Good for me, I'm happy to say, is an Italian. So in Global Good, we work on medical diagnostics. We have a machine for diagnosing malaria and other diseases. We've invented a vaccine container that will keep vaccine cold without any power. And that vaccine container was actually crucial in the Ebola epidemic. Without that, they would not have been able to get the vaccine in. A spin-off company from my company developed something called coffee flour, which uses waste from the coffee process to make a flour-like substance. You can't use it as a replacement for wheat flour, but as a flavor addition, it's very interesting. This woman is using a milk jug that we invented. We had a project to create a new pasteurization system for milk in the developing world, and the project failed. But as part of the project, we'd made a milk jug, and it became very popular. So we gave a free license to several companies, in Africa and Asia to manufacture them. And we've got 143,000 containers in use and a lot more that are on the way. But now to switch to the rich countries, we found a study by the US Department of Agriculture that says where the money goes from buying a loaf of bread. So this is our, traditionally in business you have a pie chart. This is our bread chart. And so each of these things shows who gets the money from the loaf of bread. And the smallest portion is the farmer. In the United States, a farmer gets about 5 cents for a loaf of bread. Now, if you look on there, you see finance and insurance is 8 cents, much more than the farmer. And I have never bit into a piece of bread and said, wow, this is really well insured and financed. I mean, obviously it's important to have finance and insurance, but surely we could afford to pay the farmer more. In fact, when I first discovered this, I called my mother, who's 90 years old, and she's the one I got the picture of Grandpa in the field from. I said, Mom, thanks for leaving the farm. It's a very, very difficult thing to be a farmer. Now, why do we pay so little to the farmer? And it has to do with this productivity. In the 1830s, one American farmer would feed about 4 people, including himself. By 1940, one farmer was feeding 10 people. That's because of a variety of different inventions. Today, one farmer feeds about 200 people. As a result, the proportion of the workforce of the population that are farmers has dropped. But along the way, I think we've lost something very important. Now, in many parts of the food world, we see a lot of change. I think it's very positive that we're seeing that change. But that change has been very slow to come to the world of bread and grain. So, as I described the other market as a horizontal market, there's a different approach, which I will call a vertical market. This is when you have very high quality ingredients. you have the suppliers directly connected to the farmers and the consumers. Instead of saying, well, I bought grain by the ton, I don't know who grew it. If you want really great artichokes, many of the best chefs will know the artichoke farmer, or they'll at least know a supplier who knows all of the artichoke farmers. And it also means that consumers have to pay more for quality. You can't simultaneously have very, very cheap bread and wonderful bread. It'd be nice if that was true, but in fact, the consumer needs to either pay more money or take a little more trouble, a little bit more effort. So the world of wine figured this out a long time ago. So there's a very cheap wine in the United States. We would call this a box wine. It's about $3 a liter and worth less. At the other end of the spectrum, you have something like Chateau Petrus, which is about $900 a liter. So we all accept that for wine. And Petrus is a French brand, but there are many very highly sought-after wines in Italy that are as expensive or nearly as expensive. In fact, this is a winery I visited in Napa. It looks like it might be a European winery because it was sort of copied from one. And this is a very, very nice winery. When you have those kinds of margins, you can do things like this. Now, chocolate is also gone through a very similar transition, but more recently. When I was a child, the main kind of chocolate was Hershey's. It was in every supermarket and every candy store. In the UK, it would probably be Cadbury's. I don't know what the Italian equivalent is. It's very cheap. And now that I have a little better taste, it tastes like it's very cheap. As a kid, I loved it. But today, there are lots of people doing premium chocolates. A common phrase is bean to bar. That means that the chocolate maker does their own roasting and they don't grow the coffee beans, but they carefully select them and then they do everything else. So you can easily buy chocolate that's $100 a kilogram. Now, Europe has had these fancy chocolates for longer than the United States. There's some great Italian brands of fancy chocolate. But it's still something that overall, it's a small part of the market, but it's a real part of the market. The same thing is true for coffee. When I was a kid, my mother's bought Folgers coffee, which is $7 a kilogram. And coffee in a coffee shop, when I was a kid, was like a dime. Then later it went up to a quarter, and it was like, ooh, it's 25 cents. Now today, there are things like, this is a Starbucks reserve coffee that's $150 per kilogram. There are even more expensive coffees than that. And those are widely accessible. I'm sure if I wanted a Costa Rican Finca Tarrazú or a Jamaica Blue Mountain or some other exotic coffee, I'm sure somebody here could take me to a bunch of places in Milan that serve it or that sell it by the pound or the kilo. So all of these worlds have discovered that you have to have a connection between great farmers who are making a superior product all the way to the consumer or producer. Yet in grain, it's very difficult to do that. These are just some other examples. Besides just the cost, you can also say, well, I want something gluten-free. I want something organic. I want fair trade coffee or chocolate. That's important because most of the countries that produce the cocoa beans or the coffee beans are developing countries. And sometimes in the past, and maybe even still today, the farmers are exploited. Fair trade coffee is a different kind of a premium. It's not just premium in quality, it's premium in the social aspects of what that product, how it's produced. So each of these things is a variety. And again, if I went to around Milan or Seattle, where I live, I could find all kinds of products that had those other properties besides just being very delicious. So I think that the time is ripe for a revolution in bread. And to do that, what do we need to do? Well, you need consumers who are willing to spend a little bit more for bread. In the example of the loaf of bread where the farmer gets 5 cents, the loaf costs $2. Most people can afford to spend more than $2 on bread. Now, not everyone can, but today it's very difficult to have those options. It also means we have to support farmers who grow better grain, and that we have to have varieties of grain that are really worth paying more for. And that's what this is about. And here's one of the examples I like to use. Would you pay for bread at a restaurant? Many restaurants will offer bread for free. It's bread and water, comes no matter what you order. Other restaurants say, no, they want to charge for bread. And I know lots of people, even very wealthy people, who get mad at that. They say, well, bread should be free. And I would say, well, then you're going to get what you pay for. So I always use an Italian example. I would say, okay, do you think risotto should be free? Because one of the arguments people will make with me is they will say, well, bread is just a bunch of starch. It's just flour. That's why it should be cheap. Well, risotto is just rice. Now, most people in the United States would say, no, risotto should not be free. They would recognize that risotto is a dish that requires a lot of labor, requires a lot of skill. Here's an example of a risotto New York that's $95. I'm sure I could find comparably priced risotto in Italy, especially if I was here during white truffle season. But for bread, say most supermarket bread is $2. In the United States, if you go to an artisanal bakery, you pay $5. That's not a big difference. The most expensive bread bakery in America is, and one of the best, is a bakery that's called Tartine in San Francisco. It's $10 a loaf, and people line up because the bread only comes out in the afternoon, and you have to be in line. So besides the money, you have to take a little bit of effort. But that's so rare. And I understand why it's rare. People are busy, and convenience matters to them. So it's easier to grab the loaf from the supermarket. But if that's all we keep doing, all we're going to have is supermarket bread. Now some bakeries are increasingly starting to try to get branded, and some of this is starting to happen, but it's still very, very early. There's some premium flour. I think the most expensive flour we could find in the United States that was a wheat flour is $39 for a bag. That's okay. That's it's expensive for flour, but it's still very, very cheap in absolute. There's also a bunch of chefs who are adding bread as a course. Instead of treating bread like an accessory, they say, no, there's a bread course. And so this course will have a very special bread that the chef has made, and they treat it more like you would treat risotto or pasta. It'd be really weird to go to a restaurant and say, oh yes, here's some risotto that we had delivered from a place down the street. But in fact, most restaurants do that with their bread. They have a baker down the street who makes it for them. Now, technology, I think, will help. These are two different apps and websites that in the United States help you connect to local farmers. There's also new kinds of bread being invented. My favorite example of this is ciabatta. Most people in the United States think ciabatta is an ancient traditional bread of Italy. And they're very surprised when I tell them that a baker near Milan invented it and trademarked it in like 1985. Because when Americans first saw it, they, oh, this is some artisanal bread. But no, it actually was a new invention. And it's one of the things that's a problem, in my view, with the world of bread, is that it's so focused on the past that when someone invents something new, they don't like saying it's new because they're afraid people won't like it. So they will pretend that it's old. The bread at Tartine is a very modern bread. It's a high hydration bread. It means it's got a lot of water in it. They never made those in the past. It's a very modern invention. But it looks rustic, and they don't say, hey, I invented this. Meanwhile, if you go to the restaurant of a great chef, they always have a signature dish that they invented. They're proud of it. How come bakers can't be proud of it? And I think the answer is that the customers are too focused on saying, well, I only want stuff that's really old. And that's what this slide is about. These are a bunch of historical breads that we made as part of my bread book. And some of them are wonderful. Some of them actually are terrible by modern tastes. But the best bread isn't from the past. The best bread is what's yet to come. I think that we have every opportunity to create both a way of feeding the poorest people on earth, but also a way of improving the quality of the bread that those of us in the developed world eat. And so with that, I am done, I think. Yes. I'll take a moment to say that my next book is on pizza. And a month or two ago, I spent about 10 days in Italy, in Naples and Campania, eating pizza and listening and learning from many pizzolos. Then on this trip, I just spent the last 9 days going around Tuscany, Emilia-Romagna, Veneto, and Lombardy, eating more pizza. It's a tough job, but someone has to do it. So anyway, I think we have a panel discussion next. Yes?
Okay, that was fascinating. Thank you, Nathan. I'd like to also welcome to the stage Sam Cass. 3 distinguished chefs that we have here today, Sam Cass, Carlo Cracco, and Andrea Coccia. So let's welcome them all to the stage. That was really fascinating and interesting, and I'm really into bread. Now I just want to go out and eat bread everywhere and see what everybody's doing with bread. I'm really interested in hearing a little bit about how you feel the modernist bread relates to the traditional bread, after talking about these modern techniques.
Well, so bread is one of the oldest foods of mankind. So we have lots of traditions that are very tied up around bread. However, most of the bread that we eat is relatively recent. Baguette was probably first baked in 1918. There are no baguettes in France before that.
Amazing.
Panettone is a little bit like
Heaven?
well, yes, but Panettone in the form that exists today was actually also trademarked in 1922 by a northern Italian baker who had, there had been things called panettone in the past, but they weren't sweet. And so he made the modern panettone and put it in its current context. There are some breads that are old, but even those have changed a lot because new flours were invented or developed. The quality in general of things like flour went up. The quality of ovens went up. It used to be that you had two choices in the flavor of your bread, sour or bitter. And that's because they didn't know how to make yeast the way we do today. So you either had a sourdough or you used something called barm. Barm is the sludge of yeast at the bottom of a barrel that you make beer in.
That doesn't sound very appetizing.
Well, it's bitter because it has hops in it. And so you basically either had bread that had a bitter tinge or an acidic tinge. And so yeast was a 19th century invention, making a pure baker's yeast. And so that changed bread a tremendous amount.
Well, it's really interesting. Sam, I'd like to hear from you a little bit about how you feel about these heirloom flours and what the bread movement is in the United States right now, because I think it's really exciting to think about bread in the States at this time.
So I think we're at the beginnings of change when it comes to bread. A lot of the reason, I think the trouble that we got into with bread in the United States was that the wheat was, yes, bred for yield, but it was also bred for super high protein levels so that it could be manufactured very quickly. So Wonder Bread rises in like 15 minutes, or something very, very quick, because it's an incredibly quick production cycle and the amount of loaves that the American white bread, various versions of it. And so that high processing rate, I think, has taken down a pretty perilous path, particularly when it comes to health. And so you have, essentially, in terms of to the body, there's not a huge difference between a big jolt of sugar and a white American bread. And so particularly for young kids who are raised on that, we did a lot of work in schools in the United States. And the top priority was getting much more whole grains into school lunches, for example, and trying to get some fiber back into the diets of these kids. So I think you're starting to see some progress there. While I personally like to enjoy a lot of the handcrafted, delicious, beautiful breads, I think part of what we have to do, that it can, for those of us who can afford a $10 loaf, but I think the big challenge is how do you get some real scale where you bring the quality up, if not to the ideal, a significant amount where we're actually having breads that are bred for nutrition and flavor, not yield and quickness to rise. And so I think part of the question we have to ask ourselves when it comes to bread is what are our goals? And what are we breeding the next generation of seeds to do?
Great, great. Carlo, as an Italian and as a chef, how do you see the modernist bread relating to the traditional bread? Since we're talking about bread, and since you have a restaurant, how do you see bread changing in your world at this time? And is it?
Sì, il pane credo che sia, soprattutto in un certo contesto di ristorazione, è stato... Sorry. Il pane è stato, soprattutto in un certo contesto di ristorazione, è stato quasi abbandonato, nel senso che deve essere molto neutro, molto minimalista, molto basso, in maniera da non andare a interferire su quella che è la cucina, su quello che è il piatto. Però fa parte della nostra tradizione, per cui non tutti sanno mangiare a tavola in un ristorante senza il pane. È una fatica. e spesso si vede, si nota, poi alla fine mangiano troppo pane e ti dicono che sono pieni. Per cui è un'educazione quella che manca, e cercare di concentrarsi sul cibo in quel momento e invece sul pane quando ne è il momento. Questa è la mia idea molto personale di come oggi il pane viene trattato, no? Si cerca, io lo faccio tutti i giorni con il lievito madre, con le farine integrali, cerchiamo sempre di rispettare al massimo. Però è uno sforzo quasi sproporzionato a quella che è poi invece l'utilizzo, perché di fatto tu vieni a mangiare al ristorante e il pane è solamente uno degli elementi, non deve essere l'elemento principale per cui tu ti soddisfi la pancia, deve essere il cibo che ti soddisfa. Poi il pane viene dopo, nel senso che un pezzo di pane ovviamente è sempre ben gradito, ma non deve essere nemmeno l'unico dei motivi per cui vengo a mangiare, ecco.
Yeah, I think that these are all good points. And to that point, to talk about pizza, one of the most traditional breads, I would say. Andrea, how do you see the traditional pizza meeting today's modernist pizza from your perspective in your bakery, at your pizzeria?
Sì, allora, diciamo che noi rappresentiamo la storia della pizza napoletana, che è un po' la madre di ogni pizza. E appunto dopo il pane viene la pizza napoletana come modo di cottura e come tipo di forni da usare. Diciamo che la pizza napoletana ha una sua storia ormai che ha 200 anni e vive ogni giorno una innovazione che è positiva per chi lavora e per chi mangia questo cibo. Sicuramente l'innovazione è fondamentale in questo campo, diciamo nel campo del cibo. E questa innovazione va anche a influire la pizza napoletana nel suo topping, nei suoi ingredienti, nelle sue modalità di fruzione. Noi dobbiamo diciamo portare avanti la linea della addizione napoletana storica, ma diciamo puntando anche ad innovarla su nuovi orizzonti diversi rispetto a quelli attuali. Sicuramente anche Nathan sta facendo un ottimo lavoro sul suo libro sulla pizza. È stato insieme a noi 2 o 3 giorni e diciamo sta rompendo ogni schema per fare un libro perfetto su ogni tipo di pizza e sta dando numerose pagine alla pizza napoletana proprio perché lui e il suo team sa che questo prodotto è forse quello più conosciuto e forse buono che c'è. La pizza si diffonde in varie sue tipologie. A Napoli ho vissuto in prima linea la pizza di Cracco, che è stata molto criticata. Noi napoletani abbiamo a volte una visione stretta delle cose. Sicuramente sarà una pizza ottima e buonissima, non le metto in dubbio, forse non è una pizza napoletana, ma è un altro tipo di pizza, diverso rispetto alla nostra. Che dire più? Sicuramente andremo avanti sulla linea della addizione e cercando di arrivare a nuove idee, a nuove cose, a nuovi obiettivi da qui ai prossimi anni, alle prossime cose.
Well, speaking of trending and innovation, I would be really curious for each of you gentlemen to speak about what you feel is trending in innovation and in food. Not just pizza and bread. I mean, we've been talking about bread, but what's, in your opinion, what's trending in innovative food now?
Well, just to continue on this topic of innovation in pizza, one of the greatest innovations in all of history, tomatoes on pizza.
I agree.
Pizza existed for probably 100 years before they put tomatoes on. So, that was a good idea. I'm glad that someone did it. And I'm sure on the day that someone did it, somebody else said, "That's not pizza." And they had lots of fervor around it. Pizza is, it's very close to religion or sports teams in terms of the passion that people develop. And like a sports team, every football team has people who kick the ball. It's not unusual. That's what you're supposed to do. So why do you love your team? You don't say, because our team kicks the ball, yours doesn't. No, of course not. They all do the same thing, but you get this allegiance. And Naples is absolutely the birthplace of what we know pizza. And then pizza went around the world because people from Naples went around the world. I like to say pizza did not leave Naples on a piece of paper. It left with people. And I think that was a very important part of the story. Now, the pizza changed then. When it came to the United States, it changed. When in different parts of the United States, we have different types of pizza. In Italy, there are different types of pizza. There's a pizza al taglio. I probably didn't say that right, but
I think that's right. But what do I know? I'm not Italian, but it sounds right to me.
But
Scusate, sorry, apologize. You're talking about pizza, and we would like to interrupt you because we have here Alfonso Pecoraro Scagno, former Prime Minister for Agriculture.
Prime Minister. Minister.
Former
Prime
Minister of Agriculture, sorry. I was so excited. And the man who made happen the Pizza Patrimonio Nazionale dell'UNESCO. So he would like to join you on the stage
Beautiful.
to celebrate
He kidnapped me. Mi ha
the match
rapito.
between UNESCO and Modernist Pizza from Nathan Myhrvold.
It's a pleasure
Welcome,
to
Alfonso.
meet you here.
Nice
Hi,
to meet
Nathan.
you.
How are you?
Yes.
I saw you last year, you remember? You wrote for the petition. Ciao, caro. Giovanotto. Ben trovato. And so we succeed. And so you was one of the more than 2 million people that signed for Art of Neapolitan Pizzaioli as intangible heritage of UNESCO.
yes.
Now I switch in Italian, maybe because it's my traditional language, and also because we are in Italy, and it's correct to speak also our beautiful language. Quindi, ovviamente, le pizze ce ne sono tanti in tutto il mondo, diversi tipi di pizza, ma l'arte del pizzaiolo napoletano e la pizza così come si è diffusa, diciamo, nel mondo, ha un'origine molto probabile sotto un vulcano che si chiama Vesuvio su un golfo che è il Golfo di Napoli. Quindi la scelta di iscrivere l'arte del pizzaiolo napoletano a patrimonio mondiale dell'umanità non tutela la pizza, ma tutela, questo è il golfo, ma tutela una conoscenza tradizionale. Quindi una tradizione che esiste da più di 2 secoli, che si tramanda da generazioni in generazioni e che quindi è un pezzo collegato a quello che è divenuto il piatto più conosciuto del pianeta. Quindi qual era il motivo di questa grande campagna? Innanzitutto nasce da un motivo americano. Quando ero ministro dell'agricoltura, un mio dirigente importante, italiano, era stato a Washington a un convegno e gli avevano chiesto "How do you say in Italian pizza?" Allora, di fronte a questa domanda, come dite pizza in italiano? Allora abbiamo avuto la curiosità di capire come mai in molti posti dell'America pensavano di aver inventato la pizza a Chicago. Allora, da là è nata la necessità di precisare alcuni dettagli, quindi che almeno... Io tengo di Chicago, lui è uno dei fautori della pizza nata a Chicago, ovviamente forse anche prima del 1700, che è la data della nascita della pizza napoletana, forse verso il 1400, neanche c'era Chicago, ma c'era una specie di pizza. Allora, poiché gli americani sono molto bravi nel marketing, un po' come i nostri cugini francesi, abbiamo pensato bene di costruire una grande campagna dal basso, ed infatti Sam ha firmato perché l'arte del pizzaiolo napoletano fosse patrimonio UNESCO. Poi magari farete l'arte della pizza New York style, potrà diventare un altro tipo, tra 2 secoli, tra anche un secolo, potrebbe essere anche quella un patrimonio che ha avuto 2 secoli di storia. Perché togliere limiti alla provvidenza? Quindi quello è diventata la più grande campagna dal basso della storia dell'UNESCO, 2.100.000 firme da 100 paesi. L'UNESCO non ha mai visto una grande mobilitazione così enorme, ma la cosa più divertente è che un alto dirigente dell'UNESCO mi ha ringraziato, ha detto "Ministro, non dobbiamo ringraziare, perché quasi sempre l'UNESCO riconosce dei prodotti molto di nicchia, il canto corale dei pastori sardi, il fischio tradizionale dell'Anatolia, e quindi quasi sempre queste cose molto rare diventano conosciute grazie all'UNESCO. Quando invece è stata riconosciuta la pizza, l'arte della pizza, patrimonio UNESCO, la notizia è andata su tutti i media del mondo e questo dirigente dell'UNESCO ha detto "Guardate, in questo caso molta gente ha letto pizza UNESCO, non si è domandata cos'era la pizza, si è domandato cos'era l'UNESCO, perché in realtà nel mondo qua moltissimi cittadini sanno cos'è la pizza, ma pochi sanno cos'è l'UNESCO". E quindi dice "Avete fatto conoscere l'UNESCO a centinaia di milioni di persone che non sapevano cos'era l'UNESCO". Quindi abbiamo fatto un omaggio. Quindi noi continueremo a lavorare perché ci sia questa conoscenza culturale, ma che non esclude che ci sia una diffusione nel mondo. Noi vogliamo che nel mondo ci sia sempre più anche una pizza stile napoletano, ma che non esclude che ci siano altri stili. La seconda soddisfazione che ho avuto me l'ha data il Presidente della Repubblica francese, Monsieur Macron, perché ha ricevuto all'Eliseo la Confédération des Boulangeries et Pâtisseries Français, perché in Francia tutto è molto pomposo, quindi i panettieri dei nostri sono la Confédération des Boulangeries, e Macron è uscito sulle Figaro, ha detto "Les Napolitains, il a obtenu l'UNESCO pour la pizza, nous doit faire quelque chose pour la baguette maintenant". E quindi la prima volta che i francesi devono rincorrerci e adesso vogliono avere l'arte della boulangerie francese come patrimonio dell'umanità. Quindi diciamo è una bella iniziativa perché l'arte del pizzaiolo napoletano è il riconoscimento di una cultura artigianale rispetto a un mondo di prodotti industriali fatti tutti in serie con lo stampino. La seconda è che per la prima volta abbiamo costruito una grande mobilitazione dal basso di cittadini, di persone, e abbiamo portato quindi una campagna UNESCO non da addetti ai lavori, ma dai cittadini. Quindi noi abbiamo sollevato poi questo che è stato il nostro slogan della vittoria, l'abbiamo sollevato in Corea del Sud, a Jeju, quando all'unanimità la Commissione Mondiale dell'UNESCO ha detto sì, l'arte del pizzaiolo napoletano è patrimonio dell'umanità, e abbiamo vinto. Voilà.
There you have it.
Sto passando. E adesso la fotina devo fare pure con Sam, perché è uno di quelli che devo ringraziare, perché l'anno scorso ha detto "Ah no, I have to sign, yes, pizza is pizza".
It's a great story, a great pizza story.
Thank you. Sono libero? Non so, Marco? È scomparso.
Well, I'd love to have you stay, or you're free to go. Your choice. You
I
can-
don't know exactly, but stay.
Yeah, stay.
I have to stay with
I'm interested. We were talking about innovation and food and the tradition of
Yes.
pizza, of course. We're in Italy. But with regard to innovation and food, Carlo, how do you see, because things are so traditional in Italy, what do you think the trends are for innovation right now in food for you in Italy?
L'innovazione passa attraverso lo studio, no? Come dimostra quello che ha fatto Nathan, no? Per cui tutto quello che è tradizionale, che poi è un tradizionale più o meno recente, per cui non è che abbiamo proprio delle notizie così precise, perfette, però la parte tradizionale va studiata e va poi codificata. L'innovazione che cos'è? È solamente cercare di riportare quel gusto o quell'aspetto o quella forma, o dipende da che prodotto parliamo, alla sua originaria forma o colore o qualità. Per cui l'innovazione non è sradicare, ma è radicare ancora di più nel territorio quella tradizione, ma cercando di renderla però attuale, non lasciandola vecchia e abbandonata, va coltivata. Per cui se c'è un'arte precisa che si può conservare, che si può migliorare, che si può rendere attuale, perché oggi non mangiamo più come 100 anni fa o come 200 anni fa, mangiamo in maniera diversa e il fabbisogno è molto diverso, per cui dobbiamo cercare di adattare tutto ciò che prima avevamo al nostro modo di vivere oggi. E in cucina lo si vede, cioè non si comprano più quintali di cibo, si comprano chili di cibo, perché non è importante giocare tanto sulla quantità, ma sulla qualità di quel cibo.
Interesting. And so, Sam, maybe you can speak for a few minutes about in the United States, where do you see innovation and food intersecting right now in general?
Well, part of what I do is I'm a partner in a fund investing in future food companies and technologies. And I actually think there's transformative innovations that are coming at pretty much every part of the food supply chain, largely driven by increased consumer demand because we're all very sick because of the food that we're eating. You have 80 million pre-diabetics in the United States alone, pre-diabetics. And 1 in 3 children are on track to have diabetes in the United States, which is staggering. And climate change, on the other hand, is going to make it increasingly difficult to produce healthy food supply at a price that people can afford, unless we see a bunch of innovation in the coming years. And we have to figure out how to reduce food and agriculture's impact on climate change as it's the number 2 driver of greenhouse gas emissions, and within our lifetimes will be the number 1. So I see, radical change. I think probably the one that holds the biggest implications and will come right into the face of tradition is gene editing technology. Different than GMOs, gene editing takes DNA that already exists in the plant's genome and manipulates it by expressing or silencing different genes to get traits that we're looking for. Done very cheaply, and could actually have properties that have a consumer benefit. But I think we're going to run into a lot of resistance, largely because food is, and I think the resistance to change or even putting tomatoes on a pizza is because food is one of the deepest expressions of who we are and who we're not. And so anytime you start to engage in changing what we eat, you're actually running up against people understanding changing who they are. And that's a pretty profound crossroads we're going to have to cross, especially when you consider we're going to see, and we are already seeing, developed and ready really for deployment, plants that have 3, 4, 5 different edits and up to 20 and beyond in the foreseeable future, but things that could have a huge benefit, like wheat with 3 times the fiber. That can be grown with significantly less water. Now, it's going to be a complicated argument about whether that's a good thing for society or something that flies in the face of our traditional way and our traditional wheats. But I think it's something we're going to have to really grapple with in a much more open way than we are right now. But I'm seeing, those kinds of innovations that have massive implications throughout the supply chain right now.
Really, really fascinating and interesting, and more to be heard about that going forward, I'm sure. Nathan, back to you. So you just published the Modernist Bread Compendium of books, and it's exhaustive on bread. Why pizza? Why now?
Well, pizza is probably the single most common food dish on earth. I mean, bread as a category is very large, but in terms of something that you can order as a meal, it's the most popular thing on earth. Now, it varies in quality, it varies in style, but it's a hugely popular thing. It has a very deep history. It has lots of very strongly held beliefs, some of which are true, but some of which are not true. One of the things that I think is important is a great chef learns how to cook food and prepare food in a way that is delicious and hopefully also good for you. But you don't always understand why it's that way. A recipe says, do this, do this, do this, and you get a result. And if you're happy with just doing exactly that, well, fine. I like to understand why it works that way and how it works.
That's the scientist in you.
Yeah, well, but it's also useful for the chef, because if you try to do something new that's unprecedented, you need to understand. Otherwise, it's usually a failure when you try to do something new.
So you're saying that it's not just all about the quality ingredients, which we as chefs have always heard, you start with great ingredients, you wind up with something great on the plate, but it's more about the ingredients and the technique, which really informs the dish.
Great chefs have a lot of skill, okay? Enzo or Andrea or Carlo, they can do, and Sam. Wow, she's picking the locals first, come on. So they have a tremendous amount of skill, and it's very popular to say, oh, let's focus on the ingredients, which good ingredients are wonderful. You absolutely have to have them. But then people forget that there's a tremendous amount of skill that it takes to transform those ingredients.
Well, that's what makes a great chef, the skill.
Well,
anybody can get good ingredients.
Well, Italy is wonderful because it has these strong traditions of that skill and also the ingredients. When I was traveling around Naples, one of the chefs was very proud and said, all of my produce is local. And I laughed at him. I said, of course it's local. You have the best stuff in the world. Everybody else imports your stuff. Of course you use local.
Right, why would he go somewhere else for ingredients?
But you really do need both. The idea that it's only a great ingredient is okay for an apple. You can just bite an apple. But take a sack of flour and make bread or make pizza from it. Or take some milk and try to make cheese. Good luck to you. It takes lots of skill. And so as much as people love these days to say, oh, this is a natural thing. Well, natural sort of means good. But wine is not natural. Wine, as we know it today, is an invention. Bread is an invention. Pizza is an invention. And it requires huge skill, and we have to remember that skill is the UNESCO recognition is partly the cultural role, but also the tremendous skill and the dedication of Pizzolo in Naples to developing this, and then inspiring the rest of the world. And so I love great ingredients. And my talk was mostly about how can we get better grain. But we also need to know how to do it properly. And in that transformation of the raw ingredient into the final food, magic occurs there. And many of the things that we're talking about for affordability or for health or and especially for taste, they depend on that.
Yeah. Well, I wonder, since we're in Italy and the ingredients and the quality of the ingredients are so great, is there room for innovation in Italy in terms of wheat and grain and how can you make a product that's already amazing better in a place like this?
Okay, so I'll give, Carlo is an example. Massimo Bottura is an example. They are both chefs who are on the cutting edge of what's happening in cooking worldwide, and they're also Italian. Now, it hasn't always been easy for them because Italy has always worshipped tradition. And as much as you worship tradition, you have to remember that it's also important to move forward. I was in Florence earlier on this trip, and the Duomo dominates the skyline. It was built by people who were both artists, but also engineers. So it didn't fall down.
Yes.
Right? That would be... Brunelleschi was fantastic at designing the dome as well as making it beautiful. And I think you need to always keep that in mind. So of course there's innovation that is not only possible, but also I think essential for Italy.
I'm interested to hear from the Italians. What do you feel is innovative right now in food? What's the trend and what's coming in innovation?
Of course, Italy is always making new things in a lot of sides and even in what is about food. Switch again. L'Italia però ha anche una caratteristica, cioè l'Italia è un paese che ha un'agricoltura molto particolare, nel senso che l'Italia dalle Alpi alla Sicilia è il paese che ha la maggiore biodiversità naturale in Europa. Cioè noi abbiamo degli ecosistemi molto diversi, dalle Alpi, che sono le montagne più alte d'Europa, fino alla Sicilia, che si trova vicino all'Africa. Quindi l'Italia ha una grande varietà naturale. Da questo nasce un'agricoltura estremamente biodiversa. Noi abbiamo 10 volte più cultivar di olio, di olive, che non la Spagna, che pure è un grande produttore d'olio. Abbiamo 10 volte più diversità nei vitigni della Francia, che è un grande paese vitivinicolo. Perché? Perché l'Italia ha molto investito anche sull'agricoltura familiare. Io da Ministro dell'Agricoltura ho fatto la riforma dell'agricoltura italiana che ha favorito l'agricoltura familiare. Quindi le materie prime che i nostri chef, i nostri pizzaioli hanno a disposizione nascono da un regalo che ci è stato fatto dalla geografia, che ci ha portato a essere dalle Alpi alla Sicilia molto diversi, e dai fenomeni culturali di un paese che si è sempre distinto per il cibo. Una volta ricordo che a Londra mi spiegavano che le varie tribù, i vari clan scozzesi si distinguono per la differenza del kilt, è fatto in colori diversi. I clan italiani, da zona a zona, si distinguono per le ricette. In Italia tu hai una miriade di ricette locali e quindi questo elemento di biodiversità culturale ha creato una ricchezza enorme, che però è sempre anche innovazione, questo è ovvio. E poi diciamo anche che l'Italia, noi siamo il paese, sentivo prima Sam che parlava degli OGM, prodotti transgenici, l'Italia è il paese che dal 2000 ha messo al bando il transgenico, ha investito sull'organic food, abbiamo i farmer market, la più grande rete di farmer market al mondo, e io devo dire che sono stato proprio vicino a Washington, credo, a vedere che anche negli Stati Uniti, paese leader di un certo tipo di agricoltura estremamente estensiva, però c'è un recupero enorme. Per esempio la National Farmer Association investe molto sui farmer market, sul prodotto locale, sul recupero dell'identità dei prodotti. Quindi, e questo paradossalmente è innovazione, perché per gli Stati Uniti recuperare alcuni prodotti tradizionali è una forte innovazione rispetto a un cibo estremamente tradizionale. Quindi io credo tradizionale, molto industrializzato. Quindi io sono convinto che l'Italia può dare un grande, come dire, segnale. E io per esempio la settimana scorsa l'ambasciatore del Sudafrica ci ha chiesto una mano perché nella riforma che stanno cercando di fare l'agricola del Sudafrica vogliono rivalorizzare l'agricoltura familiare, perché rispetto al climate change, rispetto alla povertà, può dare molto più lavoro. Quindi io spero che anche questo sia importante. Mangiare bene, cose buone, ma ricordarci che senza agricoltori che lavorano e fanno la qualità e senza una natura sana non ci può essere una grande cucina. Credo.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's play a little game. Each of the gentlemen here, one ingredient that you're really excited about in 2018. It could be anything. It could be a grain, it could be a vegetable. What's exciting you right now on the plate?
Start at that end of the table.
L'olio d'oliva. L'olio perché credo che sia forse un simbolo della triade alimentare mediterranea anche, no? Vino, olio e harina. Dico olio d'oliva perché credo sia un prodotto eccellente e che può cambiare un piatto o un prodotto con questo uso di questo olio. Può essere, penso, il suo anno. È sicuramente un ottimo cibo.
Vuoi dirne una anche tu?
Di un prodotto?
One product.
One product. Beh, a parte che ha rubato il mio prodotto preferito, io sono per l'olio extravergine d'oliva. Però per dire un prodotto americano, il pomodoro, che noi abbiamo trasformato da pomodoro in pomo rosso, perché a noi il pomodoro ci è arrivato giallo dall'America. Poi nella rielaborazione abbiamo recuperato anche il pomodoro rosso, che è un pezzo. E io credo che una delle cose che nella cucina nostra maggiormente migliora, modifica, magari a volte copre un po' troppo il sapore di altre cose, però sicuramente un altro grande prodotto è il pomodoro, sicuramente.
I'm excited about tomatoes.
Però l'ho fatto anche come omaggio agli amici, perché questo lo dobbiamo sempre all'America, il pomodoro. Quindi siamo grati. We thanks.
Grazie.
Carlo.
Per me forse il riso come cereale, perché è un cereale che non viene molto considerato se non nel risotto, nel caso nostro, e credo che il riso è quello che oggi più di tutti patisca un po' l'allargamento del mercato. È molto difficile trovare del riso di qualità, è molto difficile soprattutto sostenere i costi per produrlo bene, e perciò credo che il riso, inteso come lo conosciamo noi, perciò nelle varietà Carnaroli, Vialone Nano, eccetera, credo che sia un prodotto che bisogna stare molto attenti, perché se altrimenti ce lo perdiamo.
Great. Sam.
My ingredient is beans.
Okay.
He laughed. That's terrible. No, I think beans for me are actually the one of the most underappreciated, most delicious, nutrient-dense, and environmentally impactful plants we have. They fix nitrogen in the soil. They are cheap, so there's actually, I don't think there's a food that you could get at that price point that provides more nutrition than beans. And so when we're trying to figure out how to feed more people in a sustainable and healthy way, I think beans are literally the number one thing we have to do, and as chefs, to make them more popular and to make them, more delicious in how we prepare them. But they're, at least in the United States, totally underutilized and underappreciated.
Yeah, I think that's not true in Italy, but I think in the US for sure, underappreciated is correct. Nathan.
Well, flour, because flour is something that you can turn into all kinds of breads and pastries and pizza.
And there you have it. all of the exciting ingredients for 2018, innovations and food. This has been really fascinating conversation. Thank you all for being here at Seeds and Chips 2018.
Okay.
E voilà.
Have a great day.
E abbiamo fatto anche questo. Come
Thank
sta?
you.